coffee. I love it. Hi guys, my name is Shannon Green and welcome to my channel. This, as you can probably tell, is my very first video. So I do ask that you just bear with me a little bit because I am new to all of this, but I do welcome any suggestions and constructive criticism. So feel free to throw it at me, it's fun. I'm going to be here with you every single week to speak about a true crime case that has inspired me and influenced me to speak out and share with all of you lovely people. I'm generally going to be covering cases that aren't particularly well known in order to get them the recognition that I think they deserve. So if, like me, you are interested and fascinated by true crime, then please, I highly suggest that you click the like and subscribe button so that I can continue doing these videos for you every single week. I'm just so excited to begin my journey and have you guys along for the ride. So let's buckle up and let's get on with our very first case. So just before we begin, I just want to say that in order to fully understand the story, however, when I say understand, I do not mean justify it by any means. Throughout all of these cases, we are not going to be justifying the things that these people do. I just mean, in order to fully understand the true context of the whole story and to get a very clear picture of everything that happened, we need to go right back to the beginning. So this story begins on the 16th of November 1999 in Wagga Wagga, Australia. Yes, Wagga Wagga is a real place. I had trouble believing that too. Emily Dietrich and Adam Baker welcomed their very first child into the world. This child's name was Zahra Baker. Adam, Emily and both of their families were all so delighted at the arrival of Zahra. Zahra was born as a beautiful bundle of joy with fair coloured hair and hazel coloured eyes. Now, I am a parent, and I know that when you become a parent for the very first time, you are faced with a myriad of struggles and obstacles. It can be incredibly testing at times. You go from just being an average person to having standard very little responsibilities to suddenly having the biggest responsibility that you will possibly ever have, and it is amazing, but it is also quite overwhelming. It's like before I was a mother, you know, if I wanted to just have a nap on a Saturday during a day, I could. If I just wanted to pop to the shop at that very time that I thought of it, I could. I can't do that now. It is a military operation now. It needs precision and planning just in order to do some of the most basic things. And those kind of things can be, at times, the most overwhelming. Now, when Zahra was just 8 months old, unfortunately, these struggles become too much for Emily to bear, and she was sadly diagnosed with postpartum depression. And due to this, Emily felt like she could no longer have Zahra in her care. Emily and Adam were engaged at this point. However, due to her postpartum depression, obviously she couldn't feel like she could take care of Zahra anymore. So Emily and Adam broke up, and Adam took Zahra and moved in with his parents, also in Wagga Wagga. Now, as soon as Adam took Zahra to move in with his parents, all contact between the Bakers and Emily was cut. And that was on the Bakers' behalf. Emily still very much wanted to be a part of Zahra's life. She absolutely adored her daughter. This was not an easy decision for her to make. I can imagine it must have been the hardest decision she has ever had to make in her life. And my heart really goes out to her. It really does. It makes me sad that she felt like Zahra would have been safer in Adam's care, especially with what we know later on, but I will get into that later on. So Zahra moves in with Adam and Zahra's grandparents, and all contact is cut. Emily tries to ring on a regular basis to check on Zahra, to see how she's doing, to ask when she can visit. But every time she did, the Bakers, all three of them, would change their phone numbers. And then in 2004, Adam, Zahra, Adam's parents and Adam's brother all decided to move to Jairu in Queensland. And Jairu is about a 23-hour drive away from Wagga Wagga, which, you know, is a long way away. And they did not inform Emily on this. They did not tell her that they were moving, and they did not tell her of the address that they had moved to. So Emily had absolutely no idea where her little girl was. However, the Bakers seem to have adjusted very well into Jairu, and so did Zahra. She was enrolled into preschool, and Zahra quickly made lots of friends, and she absolutely loved her preschool teachers, and the feeling was very much mutual. Got a bit of chicken in my tooth. I don't know why my nose is so itchy. Oh, it's hay fever season, guys. One of Zahra's preschool teachers in particular absolutely adored Zahra, and she stated that Zahra was a very happy and determined little girl who come into preschool every single day with a huge smile on her face. And Zahra's preschool teacher actually stated that at that point she didn't have any reason to suspect any form of neglect or abuse going on in Zahra's home at that time. She was always clean, she seemed to be kept well, and she was always very happy. She seemed to be absolutely thriving at preschool. And all of her teachers could see the strong bond between Zahra and her father Adam. Zahra would always be so excited every time Adam would pick up Zahra and drop her off at nursery. Adam would always seem so interested in how Zahra was getting on at preschool. He would always be asking all of her teachers how she was getting on that day, what she was doing. He just seemed very invested and interested in her life at preschool. And for me personally, I don't think that there was any form of abuse going on at that point. From all of the research that I've done, there is no evidence to suggest that there was any abuse going on at that time. So in 2005, while Zahra was still attending preschool, Zahra was sadly diagnosed with cancer. She was diagnosed with bone cancer, but luckily it was not at an advanced stage. So Zahra did not require chemotherapy. However, she did need to have one of her legs amputated just above the knee. And in order to replace this leg, Zahra needed a prosthetic leg. It's just incredible though, isn't it? Like, it was absolutely heartbreaking that Zahra had gone through this. For anyone to experience cancer, to lose their life to cancer, or to lose a loved one to cancer, my heart absolutely goes out to them. But especially for such a young child at just 4 or 5 years old to go through cancer is absolutely heartbreaking. However, like I said, she beat it. And it just goes to show that Zahra's preschool teacher was right. She was an incredibly determined and strong-willed little girl. She fought for her life and she beat cancer. So in 2006, Zahra was in remission. While Zahra was in remission, obviously, as you can imagine, she was going to the hospital quite regularly for checkups so that doctors could see how she was getting on and to ensure that her cancer had not returned. So while Zahra was in remission, Zahra's father Adam had joined a website called IMVU, which stands for Instant Messaging Virtual Universe. Now, I've looked a little bit into it. It's a 3D avatar-based gameplay where you can interact with other players. And soon enough, Adam struck up a virtual relationship with a woman who named herself Gothic Fairy. and this woman lived in North Carolina, and her real name was Elisa Fairchild. Now, as you all probably know, North Carolina is in America, and America is very far from Australia. So for quite a while, this relationship was purely online, and they soon exchanged phone numbers and began messaging and calling very frequently. They would text all hours of most nights and seemed to really spark up a strong connection. And after a while of only speaking through messaging and phone calls, Elisa made the decision to fly to Australia to visit Adam for the very first time. And it probably goes to show how much Elisa thought of Adam. I mean, to travel 19 hours on a plane to meet someone for the very first time is one hell of a commitment. I'm sure we can all agree on that. I think, you know, from my dating days when I do a bit of online dating a long time ago, I wouldn't have even travelled an hour away to meet someone for the first time. You know, Adam could have been, he could have looked totally different to his pictures. He could have been a woman for all she knew, but I think Elisa just had a gut feeling that he was going to be who he said he was, and that their relationship was going to work out. So she persevered with that feeling, and she flew to Australia to meet Adam for the first time, and straight away sparks flew. As soon as Adam and Elisa met, they had a very strong physical connection, and in their minds they were in love. And they were already speaking about marriage and about moving in together. So shortly after meeting, Elisa and Adam, their relationship intensified tenfold. They were very much in love at this point. However, not long after this, Zahra sadly was diagnosed with cancer once again. Zahra was about 8 years old at this point, and she was diagnosed with cancer for the second time, which is just incredibly sad. But this time her cancer, it was lung cancer, and sadly it was at quite an advanced stage, which meant that Zahra needed to have chemotherapy. But once again, Zahra beat the cancer, which, these are the things I want us to all take away, and this is what I want us to remember. Not that Zahra had cancer, you know, I don't mean to refer to her as the child that had cancer. She was so much more than that. But the fact that she beat cancer twice at such a young age just goes to show what an incredibly strong and amazing child this girl really was. And that's the legacy I want Zahra to have. That's how I want us all to remember her. I don't, obviously, from what we're going to take away, we are going to remember that she lost her life also at a young age, but that's not her legacy. Her legacy is her personality, the child that she was, and that is what I want you all to take away from this, okay? Does just make me emotional when I get into this. Right, I'm composed. I knew what I was getting myself into when I started this. I knew I was going to go through an emotional roller coaster, and you guys probably will too when you watch this video. If you watch this video, which I really hope you do. So we're going to fast forward now to 2008, when Elisa and Adam got married in Queensland, and soon talks of moving in together become frequent. Every single day they were discussing it. They were discussing whether they should live in Australia, live in America, and that's when Elisa come up with the brilliant plan of moving to North Carolina, which is where she was from. So Adam was pretty sceptical about this because obviously as we know, Zahra had gone through cancer twice, and an average person requiring, the odd doctor appointment, hospital appointment in America would be incredibly expensive. However, Zahra beat cancer twice, so she would require a lot of healthcare. And in the UK, where I'm from, we have a free healthcare system, which is the NHS, which isn't amazing. I think every single country should have a free healthcare system of some kind. And Australia also have a similar system. So obviously, Zahra's healthcare in Australia was free. But if they were going to move to America, it would not be free. And Adam, he wasn't a rich man, he didn't come from a rich family, he just come from a standard working class family. So he was a bit apprehensive about this move because of the healthcare. But Elisa, being Elisa, she reassured Adam and said, it's fine, I'm actually rich. I know I've not mentioned this before, but I'm rich. So you guys can move in with me in North Carolina and I can pay for all of Zahra's healthcare. So Adam was like, yeah, that's great. I need a fresh start. Zahra needs a fresh start. You can pay for the healthcare. Yeah, why not? Let's do it. So that's what they did. They moved to North Carolina in America shortly afterwards. Now, I don't think I actually mentioned this before, but when Elisa first met Adam's family, and also his family friends, they didn't seem to be too happy about the relationship. They did not feel like Elisa was a very good fit for Adam. And after having a few conversations with Elisa, it became pretty clear that Elisa was a bit of a compulsive liar. She would tell some quite bizarre stories. One of them in particular, she liked to tell people that one of her previous jobs was that she was a bounty hunter. It's just bizarre. And because she was a bounty hunter, she had met a lot of celebrities, which I don't know any bounty hunters. I've never been a bounty hunter. I don't know if bounty hunters and celebrities hang out in the same social circle. I would presume not, but according to Lisa, they did. We don't know, but I call. And then Elisa, another random story that Elisa come out with, she told people that she was a police officer who was shot in the line of duty. Yeah. And it became pretty clear that Elisa was a bit of a bullshitter. So that was one of the many reasons that Adam's family members and family friends were not too keen on her. But I don't know if Adam knew that she was lying, or he kind of just compartmentalized and just pushed that to the side. Maybe he was just so in love with her that it just went over his head and he just let all of that slide. So in 2008, Zahra, Adam and Elisa all moved to North Carolina in America. They moved into Hickory in Elisa's father's home, which for me would have been a red flag instantly, because obviously Elisa had previously reassured Adam and told him that she was rich. But as soon as they moved there, it became quite apparent that she was lying, because they moved into Elisa's father's home, which was not a big home, it was just a standard 2 to 3 bedroom house. So obviously if Elisa was rich, she wouldn't be living in a small home with her father. But once again, Adam just pushed that aside and just didn't think too much of it. I don't think he really questioned it. So they moved into this home and everything was good and it was happily ever after. No. not true. After about 6 months, Elisa's father just became increasingly frustrated with Elisa and her drug taking, and he then made the decision to kick them out of his home. And shortly after that, Adam, Zahra and Elisa moved into a flat in Granite Falls. And at this point, Zahra was not enrolled in school at all. Once they had moved into this flat, Elisa and Adam were not working. So I think the cracks began to show. And a lot of tension grew between Adam and Elisa. Obviously, neither of them were working, so they were getting under each other's feet, they were starting to piss each other off, they were arguing all of the time. And then those arguments turned from just being verbal to then physical. And they began fighting physically quite often, and often in public as well. A lot of neighbours and even their landlady at the time, whose name was Mim, and she also lived in the building, she would notice them quite a lot fighting in the car park. Now Mim, the landlady, actually didn't know that Zahra was living there. She had only met Zahra once. So Zahra wasn't attending school. So where was she? So after a while, Mim started to notice that there were some strange sounds coming from the attic. And I don't think she thought too much of it. I think she probably just presumed that it was mice or rats. But after about 6 months, Mim made the decision to kick them all out, because Adam and Elisa were 2 months behind on their rent. Now, I find it quite strange that neither of them were working, so I don't know where they got the other 4 months worth of rent from, but they did somehow. So Mim kicked them out. And straight away, as soon as they left, Mim noticed that the sounds coming from the attic had gone. So Mim went and done a little bit of investigating herself and had a look in the attic and noticed that it looked like someone had been living there. There was a blanket up there, there was food, and that's where Elisa was living. And this really upset Mim, because she knew that it wasn't like a regular attic. You could only access it through a closet. And that's where this girl was being kept 24/7. She wasn't allowed to go outside, she wasn't allowed to go to school, she wasn't allowed to go anywhere else. She was just kept in this attic all of the time, kept hidden from the rest of the world. So once they were all kicked out, they then moved into a trailer in Hudson. This wasn't a lone trailer, it was amongst a neighbourhood in a field. And once they moved there, Zahra was enrolled in Hudson Elementary School. And quickly, Zahra made lots of friends, she seemed to be thriving, she was doing really well in all of her subjects, and all of her teachers seemed to absolutely adore her. However, it started to become quite apparent that there was something not quite right going on at home. Zahra would often come in very unclean, in dirty clothes, and she always seemed very, very hungry. And she seemed withdrawn, timid, she constantly seemed scared. And her teachers began to grow quite suspicious. And I know that the school on a few occasions had contacted social services to inform them of possible abuse in Zahra's home. Now, 2 of Zahra's teachers actually came out to Zahra's home twice to, explore the conditions that Zahra was living in, to meet Zahra's stepmom and dad, and to talk a little bit with Zahra on her own. However, Elisa, she put on quite a show, she made sure the house was very clean, she made sure she was being very loving and kind towards Zahra, even though she wasn't any other time. And her school, I think they were still quite suspicious, but they, left it as that. And just as they were leaving, one of Zahra's teachers gave Zahra her mobile number and said to Zahra that if she ever felt like she was in danger, then she could call. but Zahra never did ring. And then that was it from the school. But then, I don't think it was too long afterwards, Zahra come into school with 2 black eyes. And I think this is when the abuse starts to really intensify. A lot of neighbours had heard Elisa screaming and shouting at Zahra, and one neighbour actually stated that Elisa would take Zahra on very long walks, bearing in mind Zahra obviously had a prosthetic leg, and naturally she would get tired and wouldn't want to walk too far, but when she would state that she was tired and couldn't walk that much, Elisa would then threaten to punish Zahra and would threaten her with physical violence. So once Zahra had come into school with these black eyes, her school then contacted authorities once again, and social services made 4 visits in a hole. But nothing was done. Neighbours began to grow very suspicious of possible neglect at home. Obviously they knew abuse was going on. They had heard and witnessed Elisa hurting and screaming at Zahra so many times. They had heard some of the horrible names she was calling Zahra. She would call her useless. She would just constantly scream and shout at her. Adam at this time was working with a landscaping company and was very rarely home. Well, he would be home, but he wouldn't get home until late at night and then leave again early in the morning. So the only times he would sort of see Zahra was when Zahra was asleep. So he weren't really involved in the parenting at all. Elisa was Zahra's main guardian at this time. She was the one that was supposed to be looking after Zahra, cooking and cleaning for her and protecting her. But obviously we know that didn't happen. Due to the school visits and the social services visits, Elisa began to grow quite worried. So she decided to homeschool Zahra. She said she felt like it was the best option for Zahra, even though Elisa was not remotely qualified to homeschool. I think we can all agree that the main reason why Elisa decided to do this was because everyone was growing very suspicious of the abuse. And how can people know about a child being abused if they never see that child? So that is why I think Elisa did that. One evening, Elisa and Adam decided to go out. I think they went to a bar for a few drinks and had something to eat. And when this happened, their neighbour, Bobby Green, and his partner, Kayla, offered to look after Zahra for the evening. And Bobby said that the whole time Zahra would just not leave his side. She was just literally physically stuck to his leg. She just would not stop hugging him. If he just popped into the kitchen to get a drink, she would be there. She just would not leave him alone. And this made Bobby a bit suspicious. However, I don't think he thought too much of it. I think he just kind of thought maybe she was just a little bit insecure. Maybe she was missing her parents and she just needed to be with an adult. However, once Elisa and Adam arrived, it was very clear that that was not the case. Bobby had shouted out to Zahra to let her know that her parents had arrived. And the second he did, she bolted upright and ran straight into Bobby and Kayla's bedroom. And this, to Bobby, confirmed his previous suspicions. Obviously, he knew something bad must have been going on for her to have been that scared to hide in the bedroom from her parents and refuse to get out. But he managed to persuade her to go with her parents. I think Bobby wanted, I think if it was down to him, he probably would have kept her there. He probably would have tried his best to protect her. However, it was just circumstantial at this point. There wasn't too much he could do. So he sent that little girl away back with her parents. Now, as I said, social services were involved from January to August in January 2009 until August in 2010. Right, I know this is going to seem very strange because, as you can tell, my face probably looks a bit different, my clothes look different, my hair looks different. So I did fully film this the other day, but I just wasn't very happy about the ending. So I've now decided to re-record the ending. And obviously I'm in different clothes because the clothes that I was wearing in the other video are currently in the wash, and my makeup's a bit different because I fancied having purple lipstick today, and my hair is different because I kind of messed it up a little bit. My hairdresser is going to kill me. I really hope he doesn't watch this because he's going to have a seizure. As you can see, I've got like yellow roots here, the rest is a bit silver because I put a silver toner on it. So yeah, Lee, please don't watch this. Anyways, moving on, let's not talk about me anymore. Let's get straight back into the case and begin the investigation part of the case. On the 6th of August 2010, the Social Services Department, which were handling Zahra's case, decided to close the case due to no signs of maltreatment or abuse. That's just ridiculous. Who were these people handling this case? I hope they got some kind of repercussions after this. And just 49 days later, Zahra Baker was reported missing. Now, on the 9th of October 2010 at 5:30 in the morning, a 911 call was made from the Baker's household. This call was made from Elisa Baker, but this was not to report Zahra missing. This was to report Adam Baker's company truck on fire. And there was a ransom note that was also left. And this ransom note stated that they didn't want any police officers involved, and they wanted £1 million. Well, this was America, so they wanted $1 million. Otherwise, they would kill their son. So shortly afterwards, police arrive, and it soon becomes a little bit sketchy to them. The main reason being that Elisa and Adam did not have a son. And Adam's reasoning for this was that it was a company truck and it could have been a case of mistaken identity, as Adam's boss, Mark Coffey, had a son. So maybe that ransom note could have been meant for him. Well, obviously Elisa ignored these threats and she called the police. So they came and, questioned them, took some notes down, and then they went away. And just a few hours later, another 911 call was made from the Baker's household. Now, this call was made from Adam, and this call was to report his daughter, Zahra Baker, missing. And immediately, police seemed very concerned, especially hearing this phone call, because Adam did not seem concerned or worried in the slightest. He was completely blasé, and he actually said in the phone call, yeah, my daughter's missing. Who does that? If my child went missing, even for like 5 minutes, I would be frantically calling the police, like, my child is missing! Like, I would be screaming, I would be crying, I would be portraying a whole mixture of emotions, and I think every single normal human being would do that. But no, Adam Baker obviously did not. He was very cool and calm about it and just did not seem fazed. And obviously, as you can imagine, authorities were very confused about this. So they arrived, and they went in there already being suspicious of the Bakers. So the police arrive at the scene, and straight away an Amber Alert is issued. And soon enough, it's all over the media and captures the attention of people all over the world. and people within the area that the Bakers were living in, they were all joining in this search to look for this little 10-year-old girl. But soon enough, it became quite apparent that this was not a missing persons case. In fact, this was a homicide case. And soon afterwards, Elisa Baker was arrested, but she was not arrested on suspicion of Zahra's death. She was arrested because of obstruction of justice. Because it turns out, Elisa wrote the ransom note herself. Well, duh, we knew that, didn't we? But obviously it took police officers a little while to realise that. So whilst Elisa is in police custody, they take this opportunity to interrogate her on Zahra's death. Elisa goes quiet and clearly says she has no idea, she's frantically worried, she doesn't know where Zahra is. But then soon enough they find out that Zahra has actually been missing for 15 days, not a few hours like they had initially thought. Whilst Elisa is in police custody, the authorities get a phone call to let them know that a local farmer, has found some remains on his land. So as soon as the police find this out, because I don't think anyone was missing at that point, obviously they instantly suspected that it was Zahra. So the interrogation between the police and Elisa quickly heated up, and they were, you know, frantically questioning her about what happened to Zahra. And then Elisa soon admits that Zahra in fact died on September the 24th, 2010, but she did not kill Zahra. No. Elisa claims that Zahra died due to her cancer, which from my research that I've done, Zahra only went to one doctor's appointment whilst living in America, and they lived in America for about 2 years, and I think one doctor's appointment for an average person in a 2-year period is not enough. So for someone that has had cancer and beat cancer twice, attending a doctor's appointment just once in 2 years is no. It is not enough. And obviously, because she didn't even go to the doctors, well, she only went to the doctors once. How on earth did Elisa know that Zahra's cancer had returned if they'd not even consulted a doctor? So again, Elisa was clearly lying, and the police did not buy that at all. And then Elisa soon takes the police to 3 different sites where Zahra's remains were scattered. Elisa admits to dismembering Zahra's body, but states that she had absolutely nothing to do with Zahra's death. Adam is obviously also questioned, and he is asked if he took part in dismembering Zahra's body, and he denied this. He said, "No, I would never do that to my baby." Now, I don't know what's true. Adam states that he was not compliant in Zahra's death, and he had absolutely nothing to do with the abuse that was going on, and he had no acknowledgement of the abuse that was going on at the time, which I don't know if I believe that. How do you not know? Even if he was working a lot and was out most of the day, every day, how would you not know that that was going on? But Adam stated that Elisa was very manipulative and very controlling. Which, if that's true, why the fuck did you not get out of there? People. So on November the 21st, 2010, the results come back and they confirm that the remains that were found were in fact the remains of Zahra Baker, and Zahra's death is also confirmed to be undetermined homicide. It was pretty clear that Zahra had in fact been murdered, but they did not know how. They could not determine that. So during Elisa Baker's trial, she accepts a plea deal and she pleads guilty to second-degree murder. Even though she pleads guilty, she is still adamant that she did not play a part in Zahra's death, and she is adamant that Zahra did die due to being unwell. So on February 21st, 2011, Elisa Baker is sentenced to 15 years in prison. So this was in 2011. That means that Elisa Baker will be free in 2026. Now for me personally, that is not enough time. Not enough time for taking away this beautiful, lovely, vivacious, innocent little girl, taking away her life, her hopes, her dreams, and taking that away from Adam Baker. As much as I just think he's a bit of an idiot, I don't personally think he was involved in any of the abuse going on. I do think he knew that it was going on, which personally makes him just as guilty. And he could have done something about it, and he didn't. But I do feel for Emily Dietrich especially. She had to deal with giving up her baby and the guilt coming from that. And then on top of that, she gave her baby to someone she thought she could trust, and someone that she thought Zahra would be in the best care and Zahra would be looked after. And unfortunately that did not happen, and her life was so cruelly taken away from her. And I'm sure Emily feels guilt from that. Not that Emily should by any means. I do not think she should feel guilty, but naturally she will feel guilty about that, and my heart goes out to her. Emily Dietrich and her mother both attended Elisa Baker's trial, and Emily's reasoning for this, which I don't personally think she needed to justify herself, she should have been there. But her reasoning for attending was that Elisa could look her in the eye and know the pain that she had caused on her face and her mother's face. Which I've seen the images of the trial of Emily and her mother at the trial, and it just absolutely breaks my heart. You could see the pure devastation in both of their eyes, and it's very emotional. So the trial ends and Elisa Baker is sentenced to 15 years. So that concludes the end of this case. Now, I would like to hear your thoughts. I would like to hear your theories. If you genuinely believe Elisa, which I hope you don't. Some of you might, I don't think many of you will, but if you don't believe Elisa, how do you think Zahra died? What do you think actually happened? Like, please feel free to let me know. I would love to hear your theories on this case. So like I said at the beginning, this is an incredibly shocking and horrific case, and it did take me on an emotional roller coaster, and I'm sure it has you guys as well. Now, like I said, I want to hear your theories, but I also want to hear your thoughts and opinions just about this case in general, about how I've told it, if you think I've told it well. If you don't, please let me know. If you think that I've left some kind of details out, or if you think I've got some details wrong. I did try and do a lot of thorough research, but sometimes it's still not enough. So please do let me know. I would love to hear your feedback. So I will be back next week with another case which I just so look forward to share and investigate with all of you. So thank you so much for watching this video. Please, 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 can you like and subscribe to my channel so that I can continue doing these videos for you guys, because like, even this is my first video, but I've just had so much fun doing it. As much as it has been so emotional, it has been fun. I find it so interesting researching cases and talking about them. I used to just research cases just generally all the time anyway, so now it's great that I can have a platform and I can speak through that and share it with people that are just as interested in true crime as what I am. So thank you so much for watching this, and I will see you again next week. So goodbye, and I hope the rest of your week is just as fabulous as you are. Bye guys.